Before we dive into these stories, hit like and subscribe to appreciate our efforts, because your great taste deserves stories told with the creativity of those who awakened the king's curse and never returned. My name is Adam Antoine, a university professor in Egyptology. I was the leader of an American research team that came to Egypt in the summer of 2019 to study a rare tomb recently discovered near the Abusir pyramids, an archaeological area that's still not fully explored. We arrived in Cairo with 5 bags of equipment and 8 team members, including my old friend Daniel, the photographer Kate, and interns John and Laura. We were excited like kids. None of us imagined this trip would turn into, it was a collective nightmare. The discovered tomb was sealed with a layer of hardened clay and had no inscriptions indicating its owner. It felt strange because the pharaohs never buried their kings in silent graves. But curiosity outweighed caution, so we started digging after getting the necessary permits. On the first night at the site, we noticed something we couldn't explain: black birds flying above the entrance, even though they didn't show up during the day. The next day, the air inside the tunnel gradually turned into a foul smell, like mold, but it wasn't a natural odor. Then the first accident happened. As we moved forward in the tunnel, John suddenly fell into a small pit that wasn't visible. Something appeared on the ground, screamed for a moment, then disappeared. We tried to lower a rope, but we didn't hear any sound from below. No impact, no groaning, nothing but black emptiness. We tried to call for help, but all our phones died at the same moment. I swear to Laura, she saw a shadow walking behind us, even though the entrance was still in front of us. We went back to camp terrified and stayed awake until dawn. On the third day, Kate insisted on documenting what happened, so she went in alone with the thermal camera. She never came back. All we found was her camera at the tomb entrance, and all the footage was just creepy static with whispers in an ancient pharaonic language we'd never heard before. Nothing like hieroglyphics. Every night the tent would shake and the wind would howl like it was speaking in some strange language. One by one we started disappearing. Lara was found dead on the sand in the morning, her eyes wide open, holding a piece of papyrus we'd never seen before. It had writing on it that said, "Whoever enters my grave will have their soul taken before they see the light." Then Daniel vanished after saying he saw men with black eyes standing among the rocks. We thought he was delirious until we found his footprints suddenly ending on the sand with no trail beyond. I swear on the 6th night I heard someone calling my name from inside the tomb in my mom's voice, even though she's been dead for years. For 10 years, I was alone, scared, trembling. Yet, I went back into the tomb. Inside, I found a room we'd never seen before. The walls had creepy carvings showing some strange burial rituals. One drawing showed a man with Western features being dragged on the ground, with a black shadow behind him that had horns. Then I found a small statue shaped like a heart. It was beating, like it was alive. I grabbed it and ran out, not looking back. I snapped out of my daze only when I was on the plane heading home. I was alone. The rest of the team either disappeared or died. No one believed my story. They said we entered an unauthorized place and that the sandstorm separated the team, and that's how it ended. I know the truth. I'm still alive, only because I rebuilt the statue after hearing a voice inside the tomb telling me to do so, right where I found it. Otherwise, you'd be just another part of history by now. Since I got back, I can't sleep more than 2 hours a night. I hear whispers and see their faces in the mirrors. The pharaoh's curse wasn't a myth. We were just stupid enough to test it. The curse that ate my friends in the sands. This is the story of the sole survivor of the 9th Pyramid expedition. My name's Michael Bell. I'm 42 now, and I'm writing this from my room in a psychiatric hospital in Pennsylvania. They say I lost my mind in the Egyptian desert, but I'm telling you what really happened, more than just hallucinations. I'm a shocked man. but I swear on what's left of my sanity that what I'm about to tell you really happened. My 7 companions never came back, and I'm the only survivor. But I'm not really alive anymore. The story started back in June 2019 when we got an official invitation from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities to join an urgent exploratory mission. They'd recently discovered a site in an area that wasn't even on the excavation maps, a spot about 30 kilometers southwest of Saqqara, near a small hill range people call Devil's Heads. No tombs had ever been found there before. The place was weird. No visible structures, no statues or stone markers, just a huge rock half buried in the sand. We came across a kind of ancient Egyptian style that we'd never seen before. Me, my friend, and colleague Daniel Morgan, the famous archaeologist who studied Egyptian civilization for over 20 years, led the team. With us were photographer Kate Matthews, linguist Laura Bryn, geologist Charles, field doctor Simon, and 2 young interns, Tom and Holly. We started work the day after we arrived, super excited. That big rock we thought was just a random boulder turned out to be a sealed door leading to a narrow, vertical passage. It took us 2 days to open it, and the first thing we found underneath was a stone staircase spiraling downward. It wasn't typical Egyptian design. It was more like, on the night we opened the passage, no one slept. We all felt the same thing, a cold breeze rising from the tunnel and a smell that's hard to explain. It wasn't decay or death, but a mix of both, with something metallic, like blood. Lara wiped the sweat from her forehead and said, "The inscriptions say this is the grave of someone struck by divine wrath, but the name is erased." We didn't take the warning seriously. We're scientists. We don't believe in superstitions, or at least we didn't, until we opened the second door. On the 4th day, we found a huge underground hall. Its walls were covered with drawings unlike anything we'd ever seen. Not scenes of pharaohs' lives, but torture, blood, gods with upside-down faces, and people being dragged. Their souls were leaving their mouths. In the middle of the hall, there was a black stone coffin locked with 7 old iron locks that still looked pretty new. Someone had sealed it just a century ago, no more. That night, Tom started acting strange. He suddenly burst out laughing, loud and crazy, then began banging his head against the wall, saying, wake up, the door isn't—" We tried to calm him down, but he died in our hands, bleeding from his ears. Then his heart just stopped. There was no medical explanation. We wanted to leave and call the authorities, but the comms were all jammed. The place itself was blocking signals. We decided to stay the night until dawn. That's when the nightmares began. We all dreamed the same thing. A sound. An angry pharaoh whispers in languages from another time. A dark shadow with one red eye and a series of doors opening, then endless screams. I woke up in the morning to Holly screaming and found Kate dead beside her, her eyes wide open, tongue hanging out, and a new symbol on her forehead that wasn't there before. A circle with an eye inside. It was the seal of death, the seal of the great opening. Lara whispered, her face pale. We have no choice but to try to get out. But the entrance had collapsed, completely covered by sand, and the desert itself seemed to decide to bury us with those below. We were stuck there for 2 whole days, trying to dig our way out with no luck. The sand kept sliding back down, covering the entrance every time. We tried to open a passage, but something outside was stopping us from escaping. The truth was, the evil wasn't outside. It was inside us. On the 6th night, Charles lost consciousness, then started speaking in a language we'd never heard before. English was his mother tongue, but he began speaking in some kind of reversed ancient Egyptian with a rough voice, like someone else was speaking through him. We couldn't carry him. His body suddenly became unnaturally heavy. Then, in a moment, he opened his eyes and said in a voice that wasn't his, You have unlocked my seventh seal. The time of reckoning has come." Then his body began to crumble from the inside. He didn't bleed or die. He just broke down, like his bones turned to dust. Lara screamed and fainted, and Simon, the doctor, started shaking like a child. He said to me, trembling, "He's crying." "This isn't normal, Michael. We're in a hellhole here. No science, no logic. We tried to escape through the second passage we hadn't explored yet. We thought it might lead out, but it didn't. We entered this long, narrow room with walls covered in thousands of symbols, but no coffin or royal carvings, just warnings about the curse of the unknown king. Lara tried reading some of the symbols and said they warned about a creature that's neither God nor human, something banished from life and death, buried alive. She added, her voice shaking, that it's not a mummy, but a living being that never dies. Then something happened that made our blood run cold. Suddenly, all the lights went out, and the room was plunged into darkness. We stayed quiet. Then a red light flickered from a hole in the wall, and a sound came out, not just heard, but felt deep in our bones. Whoever chose to stay ran. Simon dashed down the corridor but suddenly stopped, then started laughing maniacally. He pulled a carving knife from his bag and stabbed it into his eye, saying, "The king doesn't see who dies." He collapsed without a single breath, like he'd frozen, his eyes wide open. It was just me, Daniel, and Lara left. We told ourselves we'd get out no matter what. We decided to go back to the main hall where the black coffin was. We thought if we closed it again, maybe the curse would seal. But the coffin was open, and it wasn't empty inside. A huge figure covered in black rags with no features stood there, and at its feet were 7 fresh human skulls. One of them was Tom Daniels. I moved closer despite my shouting and warnings and stood on the coffin. Then I murmured, "I get it now. He doesn't want us to leave. He wants us to believe in him." Suddenly, I was pulled inside. The body didn't move, but Daniel screamed, his voice echoing through the hall. His soul was being pulled from his eyes. I was about to run to him, but Lara grabbed me, tears filling her eyes. She whispered, "Don't save him. Save yourself." Then she pushed me away, ran to the coffin, and threw herself inside. Darkness swallowed everything. I don't remember what happened after that. I woke up on the sand, far away from... At the site, there were some villagers splashing water on my face. One of them said they found me unconscious about 5 kilometers from the site. The cemetery itself had completely vanished, buried under sand. No signs or clues it was ever there. I went back to the United States, and they filed an official report that the expedition team was lost in a sandstorm. Nobody believes me. Even the photos we took came out completely black. But there's one thing I still have. On my right foot, there's a small tattoo that wasn't there before. A circle with an eye inside, the same symbol that's on Kate's forehead. Since I got back, I haven't had a decent night's sleep. Every night, I hear whispers coming from the walls. Every time I close my eyes, I see a stone door opening and a dark-covered figure saying to me, "You have witnessed. Now carry my memory to the world. I did not survive. I only lived to tell the story." Amidst the realm of the dead, when the mummy cries, my name is Dr. Edward Miller, a professor of Egyptology at Columbia University in New York. I'm writing these words as I'm about to retire, but before I leave my academic life behind, I need to get this secret off my chest. A secret that's been suffocating me for decades. A secret I buried back in 1923 when I led an American archaeological expedition to Egypt to discover an unknown tomb south of Osorkov's pyramid in Saqqara. There were 5 of us, all from New York, me and my young colleague, archaeologist Jack Williams, Frank Hopkins, the photographer, and Mark, the field worker, and finally the expedition's sponsor, Henry Rowland, a wealthy man obsessed with ancient Egyptian treasures and fascinated by the idea of life after death. It all started with a coded message from a local guide named Ahmed Sharif, who claimed he found a hidden entrance to a tomb that hadn't been opened for thousands of years. I ignored it at first, but Henry got curious and convinced me to go. We arrived in Cairo in October 1923. The atmosphere was weird, stifling, with the air heavy with a buried scent. We met Ahmed in Giza, a thin man with unblinking eyes, who said something I'll never forget. "You're not opening a tomb, you're unleashing it." We thought it was a joke at first, but it wasn't. He led us out to the western desert where the sand crunches underfoot. After 3 days of digging near one of the basalt walls, we heard a sharp crack and a narrow opening appeared, leading down into a steep underground tunnel. We lit our torches and went down. The walls were covered with carvings unlike traditional hieroglyphs. Strange symbols, circles inside eyes, upside-down hands. In the middle of a circular chamber carved into the rock, there was a stone coffin completely covered with shiny black obsidian stones. Henry was amazed. It was like we had found a tomb no one had ever recorded before. As he touched the coffin, he said, "This moment will make us immortal in the history books." But as soon as we started opening the coffin, a scream burst out like nothing we'd ever heard before, neither human nor animal. It was a scream that seemed to choke the air itself. Even the rocks felt like they were groaning. Inside the shroud, we found a mummy chained up with metal shackles. At its feet, there was a leather patch with writing that said, "Whoever wakes the sleeper falls into her sleep." Henry ignored it and ordered the mummy to be moved to the camp. That night, I woke up to Frank screaming. We ran out and found him sitting on the sand, trembling like he'd seen the devil. He croaked out, "The mummy was standing over me." Jack laughed it off, saying he must have been dreaming. But the next day, Frank disappeared, completely vanished. We found no trace of him except for his camera, which was full. The pictures were all covered in this weird fog, and the last shot, which was taken by accident, showed a human-like face, kinda like a mummy, staring right into the lens. Fear started creeping into our souls. Mark tried to leave the camp, but he found the compass wasn't working, and every direction just led back to the same dune. We told ourselves it was just desert hallucinations, until we saw Henry talking to someone alone at night, someone we couldn't see. He told us, "She's not dead. She's here, breathing with me." On the 5th night, Henry insisted on reopening the coffin to study the secrets it held, as he called them. We did it, and when we lifted the coffin lid, the mummy wasn't there. Yeah, the coffin was empty, and at that exact moment, the torches went out and the camp turned into chaos. I heard Mark screaming as he was dragged away into the darkness. Then there was an eerie silence. Jack ran after the noise and never came back. As for Henry, we found him sitting in the middle of the sand, laughing like a madman, his eyes rolled back. The Egyptian authorities took him to a mental hospital in Cairo. He didn't say a single word after that and died a year later, drawing the same symbol we saw on the tomb walls. I'm the only one who came back, but I'm not the same anymore. Every night I hear her voice, feel her weight on my chest when I try to sleep. She whispers in languages I don't know, but somehow I understand. Some nights, I even see her walking around. The corner of my room doesn't just watch me. It feels like it's waiting for something. Was it the mummy of a pharaonic priestess who broke the death rituals? Did her priests bury her with silver chains to stop her spirit from coming back? I don't know. All I know is that the curse of the tomb isn't a myth. It's an ancient promise that never dies. The New York expedition that vanished in the Valley of the Kings. I'm Richard N. Lewis, a researcher of American excavation missions in the Middle East, specifically Egypt. What I'm about to tell you isn't some made-up story or a tabloid legend. It's original documents and confessions from the sole survivor of the expedition, buried in Columbia University archives for decades, and I wasn't allowed to publish them. Until recently, after the secrecy was lifted, the expedition I'm talking about was known as New York Expedition Number 17 to the Valley of the Kings in 1914. This mission started from the New York Museum of Natural History, led by the famous archaeologist of his time, Dr. Melvin Herold, along with a team of 11 researchers, photographers, and financiers. Their goal was to dig in a completely unexplored area behind the tomb of Ramses IX, after rumors started circulating about an entrance buried under the sand leading to a non-royal tomb that had been guarded for thousands of years. The team arrived in Luxor in mid-February 1914, where they were met by a local guide named Sheikh. Fawzi, a man in his 70s, told Dr. Herold when they met, "Hey man, this isn't for you. It's for burying and forgetting, not digging." Herold smiled mockingly and replied, "I appreciate your passion for heritage, old man, but we don't believe in curses here in New York." On the first day of digging, the team found a partially broken stone tablet that read, "Whoever uncovers the secret of the forbidden door will have their memory erased before their name." One of the team members called it a myth, but strangely, the young Egyptian translator Abdel Karim had a severe epileptic seizure while reading it, collapsed unconscious, and didn't say a single word until he died 2 weeks later. 10 days into the excavation, they discovered a narrow passage. The slope gradually descended into the depths of the sand. No stairs, no carvings, no columns, just a silent, dark void. It was as if someone wanted to hide the place, not decorate it. Dr. Herold insisted on entering the passage immediately, bringing 6 team members with him, including the sponsor Peter Crowley, the photographer Ann Seymour, and the field doctor Louis Frank. It was 3 a.m. when they went down, and they didn't come back until the next day. The only person who came out of that passage after 28 hours was Mark Goldberg, the young excavation assistant, 24 years old. He was found about 2 kilometers from the site, wandering the desert nearly naked, his face pale, speaking in broken, incomprehensible words. They took him to the American embassy, then to a hospital in Cairo. There, he wrote a terrifying confession, 17 pages long. That's the document I got after 100 years. In his testimony, he said, "We entered the tunnel laughing, but after the first 50 meters, the air started to change, like you were breathing with a dead lung. The walls seemed to breathe too. Yeah, they were moving. One of the lamps went out, and we heard a sound behind us. It wasn't human, more like the echo of a woman crying, but from inside you, deep inside. In the last room, we found a strange statue with no face, just a smooth skull and one eye set with a black jewel. It was staring at me, even though it was made of stone. I started screaming, then froze, completely froze, and my heart stopped. As for Louis, he was terrified and screamed, 'Get out of my bones!' I don't know how, but they died one by one, and I ran. I have no idea how I got out. I just remember a hand coming out of the sand, pulling me, then letting me go outside. At the end of his confession, he wrote one sentence: 'The curse isn't on those who went in, but on those who came out.' 2 weeks after he returned to New York, Mark disappeared without a trace. They said he committed suicide, but his body was never found. The site where it was discovered was shut down by British authorities at the time, then later buried by Egyptian officials, and its exact location is unknown today. As for Dr. Herold and the rest of the team, none of their bodies were found, only torn up pieces of their notes. It's stained with a brown liquid that looks like fossilized blood. New York Museum records still list Expedition 17 as missing due to a geological accident, but there's no official explanation or any later excavations in the area. To this day, no one knows what that place really was or what creature was guarding it. Yet, the story Mark Goldberg wrote, kept secret for over 100 years, still scares anyone who reads it. Ha!